So, is Peter Capaldi returning to Doctor Who? In this video I'm going to go into all the evidence so far, and I'm going to go into his motive, means and opportunity. So let's just start with general evidence. Both Russell T Davies and David Tennant have both teased that there's going to be more surprises in the 60th anniversary, and David Tennant mentioned filming of other mysterious people. There was also a clapperboard, which was tweeted by director of one of the specials, Rachel Talalay, which indicated a potential different Doctor appearing. You know, if you rule out all of the ones that appeared in Power of the Doctor, all the ones that are dead, all the ones that will definitely never return, pretty much only leaves 11 and 12. So now let's dive more into Peter's motive for returning to Doctor Who. Firstly, he probably loves the show more than any other Doctor. I mean, it's definitely going to be a toss-up between him and David Tennant, for example. He also had very high praise for Russell T Davies' first era of the show.
When Doctor Who came back in 2005, and that theme music began, there was hairs on the back of the neck standing up and excitement.
And Russell T Davies liked Peter Capaldi so much that he actually cast him twice during his first era. Russell even described one of Capaldi's tortured scenes as one of the finest performances in anything ever. Russell is also a very highly regarded writer, especially right now as he's hot off It's a Sin, and it could be exciting for someone like Peter Capaldi to work with him again for that reason. Another reason is money, and I'm sure with all the American money now involved in Doctor Who from Sony and Disney, there could be quite a good paycheck there. Also career-wise, I think it'd be a very good choice for him, I think, because Doctor Who is now a global Disney Plus show, and Disney is a good company to get in bed with right now. However, I think one of the big reasons Peter might come back, and probably one of the biggest clues that he could come back, is that his era's most iconic director, Rachel Talalay, is returning to the show. The two of them appear to work very well together, and they created some of the best episodes in his era. Another big factor is that Peter is still very close to Stephen Moffat. You know, recently Stephen Moffat produced a show called The Devil's Hour, which Peter Capaldi starred in, which is a really great show by the way, so I definitely recommend it. And also, Stephen Moffat is good friends with Russell T Davies.
I love this man. I love this man too.
And Moffat has mentioned that Russell has actually outlined his plans to him. So this means both Rachel Talalay, who was Peter Capaldi's director during the 12th Doctor era, and Stephen Moffat, who was Peter Capaldi's showrunner during the 12th Doctor era, both know the plans that Russell T Davies has for the three specials. I've got to believe that when he was telling them what his plans were, at some point during that conversation, one of them would have asked, "What about Peter coming back?" And I can't think of two better people to persuade Peter Capaldi than his favourite director from his era and his favourite writer. Now, if someone like Peter was on the fence about coming back, I imagine probably like one of the directors or the writers would have had to met up with Peter around the spring to try and persuade him. Now, if only there was photo evidence of such a meeting. So I think that photo of her and Capaldi during a time which he probably would have been in talks or already signed on is very, very crucial evidence. Now, obviously, the elephant in the room is that Peter has publicly said he doesn't want to be involved.
I've sort of done my time on it, and I like the idea that you leave there.
But he could be Andrew Garfielding us. You know, both David Tennant and Catherine Tate denied their involvement publicly before they were announced.
Now, Catherine, there's a rumour going around, apparently, that you might return in the, was it the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who?
Well, no one's been in touch if they have.
I think there's still some hope in his statements. For example, one reason he gives for not returning is, it's very hard to imagine how you get a decent crack of the whip when there's 14 of you. Well, there are 3 specials, and it's unlikely that there's going to be 14 Doctors in them. So screen time wise, he could get a really good crack of the whip. I mean, John Hurt only got 1 episode to make his mark, and he crushed it. And what's interesting is, on the same day he made that quote about the crack of the whip, quite immediately he then says, "It used to drive me insane on Doctor Who, not being able to talk about anything. It's like, who cares? But then I get into trouble." It's kind of interesting that he jumps so quickly to how secretive Doctor Who is after denying he's involved with it. Maybe because he's the werewolf.
I'm not the werewolf.
Now let's go into the means. This is the kind of like the tools to do the crime of appearing in the anniversary, which will be quite short with Peter really. So apart from Jodie, he's the most recent Doctor to depart, so he's the closest to being able to recapture his performance, and I think he could definitely very easily step back into that role. Also age-wise, obviously it's much more recent for him than like David Tennant for example, so he wouldn't look too different to when he was on the show. and he's still very physically capable of performing a lead role. You know, in The Devil's Hour, he was just amazing in it. Now let's move on to the opportunities. This is kind of like whether or not he has an alibi for the time of filming. So for context, the Doctor Who anniversary specials roughly filmed from around the 3rd of May 2022 to around late July, early August, possibly July 28th. So I've been doing some digging into his calendar for this kind of time period, and it appears that apart from voice acting, his last major filming project was for The Devil's Hour, which ended filming around November 2021. So then he appears to be free all the way through 2022 up until the 20th of June. And on the 20th of June, he starts filming a show in London called Criminal Record. So when you compare this against the filming time for the Doctor Who specials, he was available for the first half of the shoot, from 3rd of May up until the 20th of June. But he wasn't available for the second half, so this isn't great news, but there are 3 specials. So he did still have opportunity to join quite a lot of the filming and could appear in like 1 or 2 episodes still. Now, just before I get to my main conclusion, I just kind of want to play devil's advocate with Peter Capaldi. I did a video like this for Matt Smith, and with Matt, I think there's a very good chance he's going to return. With Peter, I'm a lot more on the fence, and here's some of the reasons why. Obviously, he said he doesn't want to, and it might even be him trying to throw us off the scent. But one of the big reasons I do kind of believe him is that he said he doesn't feel the need to keep digging up more of it. And this is quite in character for Peter Capaldi. You know, before I was a fan of his portrayal of the Doctor, I was a massive fan of his portrayal of Malcolm Tucker in The Thick of It. Malcolm Tucker was an amazing comic creation, and any other actor who created an iconic comedy role like that would constantly be bringing them back for new shows. But Peter has never done this. Since leaving The Thick of It, he's never returned to the role, which lends credibility to his claim about Doctor Who. However, despite all of those reasons, I still think there's a good chance he could come back. And that's because the deal on the table for Capaldi to come back is still pretty good. The deal on offer to him would be to come back to play his childhood hero again, work alongside Rachel Talalay, his best director again, work alongside Russell T Davies again, who's a renowned writer, star in a global Disney Plus show, which is going to be good for his career, give up just a month and a half of his time, and get paid to do it. So overall, I think it could go either way, but there is some positive evidence there that Capaldi could return. And particularly, I think the hiring of Rachel Talalay and the photo of them two together are the 2 most compelling pieces of evidence that he could come back. So let's wait and see.